Phil White
on BBC Radio Humberside.
At 1 o'clock, the lunchtime news now. Lara King, good afternoon.
Hi Phil, good afternoon. The main stories this lunchtime. It's claimed new mobile technology means Humberside police officers will be able to spend more time in their communities. 2 men are jailed for their part in an armed robbery at a jeweller's in Beverley. And it was a big weekend for Grimsby's trio of Strictly Come Dancing stars.
BBC Radio Humberside.
News at 1.
Humberside's Police and Crime Commissioner says new mobile technology means officers will be able to spend more time in their communities. Matthew Grove hopes the tablet devices being given out later will allow them to complete paperwork without returning to police stations. Trials showed 2 hours per week could be saved.
In this day and age, information is quite simply power, and to have police officers equipped with the right information out in the field on patrol gives them that extra edge to guard us all against the criminals that are out there.
And there'll be more on that with Andy Comfort after 5 this afternoon. 2 men have been jailed for their part in an armed robbery at a jeweller's in Beverley in August 2013. Kevin Smith got 12 years and Jack O'Neill 9 years. They pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit robbery after police said the pair had been watching the Guest and Phillips shop before the raid. High-value watches were taken in the robbery. A man who killed 5 people 36 years ago but was later released from a secure mental hospital has admitting possessing guns and making a bomb. Both cases involved disputes with his neighbours. Phil Mackey reports from Birmingham Crown Court.
After a long-running row about noise, in October 1978, Barry Williams shot and killed his neighbours George and Iris Burkett, as well as their son Philip, then shot and killed Mikel and Lisa de Maria at their petrol station near Nuneaton. After pleading guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility, he was sent to Broadmoor indefinitely. Despite complaints to the Home Secretary, he was released in 1994. He changed his name to Harry Street and became involved in a series of disputes with his new neighbours in Hall Green in Birmingham. Detectives discovered the weapons and the homemade bomb last October. He'll be sentenced later.
Northumbria police are reinvestigating 54 complaints of rape about which detectives had concluded there was no evidence of a crime. 48 officers have been moved to other duties. The cases date back over the last 3 years. There needs to be a radical change of attitude if we're to tackle the problem of modern slavery. That's according to a leading academic in the study of forced labour in Hull. Dr Mick Wilkinson says more cases are appearing in our area and there aren't enough resources to currently combat the issue properly.
The Gang Masters Licensing Authority, I believe that should be expanded into all areas of temporary labour, and its resources should be increased exponentially. You also need forced labour to become a policing priority in every force in the country, and sadly it's not. And thirdly, and I think this is crucial, we do need a one-off amnesty for these up to 800,000 undocumented migrants.
Funding has been secured by the University of Hull to set up a research centre aimed at finding effective ways of tackling forced labour. Professor Kevin Bales is a professor of contemporary slavery at the university.
A country like the UK could actually be a completely slave-free country. We could do that here. We have good, honest police. We have decent border controls. We have a lot of things going for us. If we put the resources and some political commitment behind it, this could be a slave-free country.
A British businessman, Shrien Douani, has gone on trial in South Africa, accused of murdering his wife on their honeymoon. He's pleaded not guilty. 3 South Africans are already serving long jail terms for their part in the killing 4 years ago. Mr Douani fought a long legal battle against being sent to Cape Town to stand trial. From the court, here's Karen Allen.
Shrien Douani, dressed in a dark suit, appeared composed and spoke clearly when he formally denied charges of murder. Seated to his right in a packed Cape Town courtroom were members of his own family. On his left, those of Annie, his 28-year-old bride, who he's accused of murdering. In a case which is likely to focus on the testimony of 3 alleged co-conspirators already jailed for their part in the crime, Mr Douani said in a statement that he was bisexual. The trial is likely to dwell extensively on the nature of the couple's relationship, but Mr Douani said that he was instantly attracted to Annie when they first met.
Police are investigating the apparent suicide of a woman who'd been accused of posting abusive internet messages about the parents of Madeleine McCann. The body of Brenda Leyland was found in a hotel room in Leicestershire on Saturday. A few days earlier, she'd been confronted by a Sky News reporter who accused her of being an internet troll. Resurfacing work on the M180 has started again today, but the Highways Agency says every effort will be made to keep traffic disruption to a minimum. The eastbound side near Scunthorpe was closed in August, and the agency admitted it caused unacceptable delays. One lane is shut from today, and the work is expected to be finished by January. It was a big weekend for Grimsby's trio of Strictly Come Dancing stars. Kevin and his sister Joanne both got through with Frankie Bridge and Scott Mills, respectively, whilst Kevin's fiancée Karen Howard also made it through with Mark Wright. Kevin and Joanne's dad, Keith Clifton, says he's really proud of them.
It's a very humbling experience with our kids being out there. It's, there's 10 million people looking at this programme, voting and spending money on our kids. It's extremely humbling.
BBC Radio Humberside Sport.
And all your lunchtime sport now from Tim Steer.
Thanks, Lara. Good afternoon. Hull City manager Steve Bruce has praised the impact leading scorer Nikita Jelavic has had on his team so far this season. Jelavic's goal against Crystal Palace at the weekend was his fourth of the season, equalling his tally for the club throughout last year. And Bruce says he has worked hard to get his reward.
He's been terrific all season. I thought last week against Manchester City he was excellent. It was good for him because he wants to be like every good number 9. He wants to score, and he's got himself in great shape, great nick, and that's all down to him and his attitude for it, because since he's arrived in 12 months he's got the heart the size of a bucket, and it's great when he scores a goal because he deserves it.
BBC Radio 2 online, on digital radio and on 88 and 91 FM.
Now the BBC News at 2 o'clock. This is Alan Dedicote. A man from Birmingham, Harry Street, has admitted having guns and bombs at his home. The court heard he'd been involved in a dispute with his neighbours, and the judge was told that under the name Barry Williams he'd killed 5 people, including his neighbours, in 1978, crimes for which he was held in a secure mental hospital until 1994. Sky News say they're saddened by the apparent suicide of a woman they'd accused of spreading abuse on the internet about the parents of Madeleine McCann. The body of Brenda Leyland was found at a hotel in Leicestershire. A reporter had confronted her a few days earlier. She'd said she'd had a right to her opinions. An expert on social media, Carl Miller, says the law on internet comments is clear.
If you actually look at the law that's on the books, trolling is probably illegal. The Communications Act and the Malicious Communications Act has wording in both of them which says that it is illegal to send a communication deliberately which is offensive or grossly indecent, which is basically the definition of trolling.
Srian Duani from Bristol has formally denied murdering his wife on their honeymoon in South Africa. The trial in Cape Town is expected to last for several weeks. The Business Secretary Vince Cable has accused his Conservative coalition partners of trying to destroy the welfare state. Mr Cable told the Liberal Democrat Party conference in Glasgow that Tory plans to cut spending by a further £25 billion after the next general election would do great harm to key services. Political staff say his onslaught underlines the determination of senior Lib Dems to distance themselves from the Conservatives. In his speech, Mr Cable said his party would be ready to raise taxes and borrow more.
Key public services have already been cut to the bone, from legal aid, local government to policing and defence. And the Tories are ideologically obsessed by cuts because they see it as a way of destroying public service and the welfare state which they detest.
Virgin Atlantic is to close its short-haul service Little Red, which operates domestic flights within the UK. In a statement, the airline said Little Red hadn't been able to make a positive contribution to the company. The flights will end next year. A law's come into force in Jersey, making the wearing of cycle helmets compulsory for children under the age of 14. It's the first time such a law has been brought in the British Isles. Lakshmi Gopal reports.
From today, most young cyclists in Jersey will have to wear a cycle helmet while riding, or as a passenger in a trailer being pulled by a bike. Anyone caught without could face a £50 fine. The new law applies to all children under the age of 14, and there are already calls for it to be extended to all cyclists on the island, no matter what their age. Jersey is the first place in the British Isles to bring in a cycle helmet law, though other countries such as Australia have had similar legislation for many years.
Lakshmi Gopal reporting, and that's the BBC News at 3 minutes past 2, and next at 3.
Patrick